What's up, guys? I'm Shawnthebro. We're back again for another fighting game tutorial in Unreal and C++. Now, real quick before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for staying up to date with this, asking me to put this out, basically just giving this support. I mean, I basically turned my channel into more of a programming channel now, where I try and do primarily programming videos, sometimes some other stuff, because I really like programming and I'm quite, that's what I'm best at. That's where my career is. So I know I can teach you guys at least sufficiently enough that you can go and learn on your own if you wanted to, and that's my goal. But you guys have given me so much support on this fighting game tutorial in particular. The only programming videos that have done better are my Game Maker videos, but they're like 5 years old. So you guys have done, like, you giving the 2,000 views to this video in the last month and a half have, that's really got me excited to start making some of these videos. So that's all I wanted to say, but thank you so much for doing that, for real. And sorry for the delay. I lost the source code on Fury Strike, which was the game I showed you in part 1. We are going to be making a game that plays very similarly to that, hopefully a little bit better, because I've had over a year's worth of experience extra to when I was working on Fury Strike. And also, I didn't have control over a lot of the design decisions, so I kind of had to work with what I had on the spot. I planned this out ahead of time, which is also part of the reason that this took extra long to get out. I kind of worked on this additionally in the background before making this video, so I can know the order of events I want to do things, so that I can put this video out for you guys and put these videos out in an order that makes sense. So I think that's all the updates I wanted to give, but I wanted to kind of clear that up because I know it had been like a month and a half since I put out the last one. I'll probably be putting up the fighting game tutorials for like the next 2 or 3 episodes because you guys love them so much. So expect one every week. It could be one every 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am at work. But yeah, other than that, again, thank you so much, and let's get into the video. So I'd like to show what you're going to end up with today if you just follow the tutorial and don't do anything else. So we're going to start with a side scroller tutorial. So you're going to have some of this jumping capability. I think there's a sprint too or something like that, but either way, you're starting with this side scroller template because if we're doing a fighting game that's going to be 2-dimensional like this, this has basically our main features. This has a camera that latches to the player. Now when we do it for the fighting game, when we switch the camera over, we're going to obviously we want both players to be on the same side of the screen, like same distance away from the sides of the screen is what I should say. So it won't be focusing on one player, but it does have the follow functionality already, which is something useful we can use. The side scroller format is good. We can just zoom the camera in and make it, a lot closer, but you already have the running. We can use the jumping. It doesn't have crouching, which we will be adding, and I thought it had sprinting. It doesn't look like it has sprinting, so we could add that, like if you double tap the button or whatever. But then we just have to basically add our attacks, which you're going to have to do anyway, regardless if you start with the template or not. So I think this is probably the best one to start with. There are ones you can find online, but they're a little bit more advanced, and they also don't start you out with like a blank slate, where I wanted to start completely fresh and get anything you guys wanted to see, I will make a video on. So I already have from Everglades, thank you very much. I know you want an alternate costume, like the ultimate costume functionality on the character select screen. I will get into that in one of these episodes, but I want to set up the base functionality. So the side scroller template is far from perfect, but I figured it was a good example to get us started. Okay, so let's start with the basics. I'm going to skip the source control thing. If you saw my third-person tutorial, you would notice I went into the source control and explaining Unreal. I'm going to skip that this time simply because you can go watch that video if you want. And if you guys are interested in it, I will either send it to you or I can do another separate video for this tutorial, but it's going to be the same process. So, to get to the side scroller, that way you can skip doing all the stuff that I was talking about earlier. You can do File, New Project. We're going to be doing this in C++. You can use Blueprint. That's visual scripting, which is what I showed again in some of my other programming videos, but you looking at nodes, they're called, and the nodes are basically built-in functions that you can drag in Unreal. We're going to be programming, so we're going to use C++. So if you go to C++, you can go to side scroller, and then you can go ahead and choose this. I'm doing it for desktop console, maximum quality is fine, whatever. No starter content, and then you just name it whatever you want, put in the folder you want, and hit create project. Once you're done with that, you should get a scene or a level that is like this. This other guy won't be here. I spawned him in for test functionality. We'll be doing dynamic spawning later, so you don't have to add him in if you don't want, but I figured to showcase this, that was the easiest and quickest way to do it. If you want to drag a fighter in just to see what it looks like, all you have to do is take the pawn that's already here, copy it. You can do Control-C, or you can right-click, and I think I clicked behind it. Whoops. You can right-click on him and hit... I thought you could do it from here, but I guess not. What you can do is go to the world outliner, and then... Oh, really? Oh, my bad. It's been a long time since I actually hit right-click, Control-C, or right-click, then copy, right-click, paste. So I guess you can only do Control-C, Control-C, Control-V. That was my fault. Sorry about lying to you there. But keyboard shortcuts are great. You should definitely use them. So, but yeah, you can copy as many as you want and just paste them in there if you wanted. I'm going to undo that because we don't need more than 2, but there you go. So that's simple enough, but that'll get you like the most basic of fighting game template that we can start with. That already has functionality we know we're going to have and can tweak. So as with the other programming tutorials, this video I honestly just want to get us started with the input. I want to be able to add inputs, and that's basically it. I don't want to do animations or anything, because if you're watching this tutorial and you're completely new to programming, I don't want to do, inputs, animations, damage, and health. So this one we're going to do simply the inputs. Inputs and some functions. That way you know, kind of how we're going to be coding this out. Next episode, I'm going to put in the animations for the attacks. I will give you the animations in the description, and then we will actually be able to see all the inputs and functions that we wrote today. So not going to be a huge payoff today, but in next episode, you will be able to see everything that we do today. And you will also be able to modify it a lot more after next episode. Like if you want to go out on your own and start working on stuff. But let's get us started today. So, once you've done this, once you're happy with the way this is set up, if you go to your content browser here, you won't see this originally. At least I never do. I always see just this folder. I'm not sure if there's a way to reset it to the way I had it, but for some reason my C++ classes is never showing up over here. I don't have this area. This whole thing is always the whole way across. If you have that, if that's in your case, what's going on, you can hit this button right here and to open that and to close it. So mine usually starts out looking like this. And I'm like, hey, I want to get to my C++ classes so I can code. You hit this little button right here. It's called Show or Hide the Sources panel. And this will show you, this is your content in Unreal, but you actually want to go to C++ classes, fighter template, then you can open up your fighter template character, which I already have open, which is this, that I was just showing you. But if you have Visual Studio, it will show you this. If you don't, I will have the link to Visual Studio and the latest version of Unreal in the latest version at the time of writing this. So the version I'm using for Visual Studio and Unreal in the description. It's the same one from the third-person tutorial, so if you watched that or downloaded that, don't worry about downloading it again. Okay. So let's just do some basic code, like I said, and then next episode we'll make it all look pretty, okay? So you're going to have 2 files in particular. If you clicked on the file I clicked on, which was this template character, it's going to open up the C++ class. Now, without ever using Visual Studio, this can look a little bit intimidating. But basically C++ files, CPP files, are files that perform the functionality of your code most of the time. I don't want to get too complicated and explain all that, but just think your C++ classes are where you're going to be doing your functionality. Your .h files or header files are where you're going to be doing your setup. Okay, think of it that way. So in this case, for example, if you can search the Solution Explorer here, and you can search for whatever your name is of your character. Fighter template character .cpp. And then this will come up eventually. But if you clicked on, oh, I searched an engine, which was also my fault. I shouldn't do that. I meant to search the whole solution. If you clicked on this, though, it should already come up with this file, like you see here. So don't worry about that. I don't think the header file will come up by default. Mine actually does because I have a plugin installed. I'm not going to ask you to install the plugin, but something you can do that's really convenient is if you hit Control on your keyboard, Control, K, and O, like knockout, Control knockout on your keyboard basically, you will go to the header file or the C++ file. You will go to the other file. It'll open it up if you don't have it open. You see the tab switching up top? Oh, I accidentally hit the wrong key there. But how this was going back and forth. We're going to need both of these, which is why I just wanted to show you that nice little shortcut. But you can also just search for this file. Anyway, let's get into the code. So if you go to your header file, what we're going to need to do is I'm going to set up 4 functions, which are going to be your 4 basic attacks. They could be punch, kick, heavy special, like they are in Fury Strike, or like some games have them. Like I know Street Fighter, I think they might only use 3 as their main buttons, and the rest are considered special moves. But either way, you can set this up however you want. I envision it that you have 4 buttons you can press, and then the directions you press with those buttons do other functionality. And of course, if you hit those buttons at the same time, they'll do different functionality. So for example, this would be punch, kick, heavy special for me. This would be attack 1, attack 2, attack 3, attack 4. But if we combine the button key for attack 1 and attack 4, then it can do obviously different functionality. Something like that. So I think 4 attacks is more than enough for what we're doing. The reason I bring this up so heavily is I've seen people, especially in the Super Smash Brothers series, set up like 30 attacks. And that is really not the right way to be going about this, because you could do it that way, but having that many functions instead of just having one function for this button press and then combining the buttons together to create another function will make your life a lot easier, a lot cleaner. So I would say start with 4, maybe even less. You could start with 3 if you wanted, but I think 4 is probably the best number if you're going to make your own fighting game. To start with, you might need more. So basically, again, I don't want to go over it too much because I've gone over it before and I don't know how much you guys know. So let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. But to make a function, you put the return type and then the function name, parentheses, semicolon. Semicolon is to end any line in C++, so don't really think about that too much. But the function part is void, which means it doesn't return anything, which means you're not getting a value out of it. You're just performing an action, and then you're going on to the next part of the code. And then the name of the function. So again, start attack 1, 2, 3, 4. I have start attack instead of just like attack because, I plan on putting cancels into this tutorial. Like if you want to start attack and then fake out and like go do another attack, or start attack and dash away, then you can do a stop attack function to do that functionality if you wanted to, or depending on the move. It's going to be different depending on what types of attacks you want to do, but this is the way I'm setting it up. So if you want to set it up exactly like I've done it, find the camera boom, side camera component stuff in the code, go right below that and type in these 4 lines. Void start attack 1, void start attack 2, void start attack 3, void start attack 4. That's it. That's all you have to do in the header file. So if you go back to your CPP file, you can scroll down, and here's where we're going to add the attack functionality. So you'll see player input bind jump, move right, and then you'll see bind touch i.e. pressed, i.e. released. As long as you put these new lines that I wrote, you will be able to do the functionality we're doing today. So if you take a look at this, what I did is I copied this. You can literally copy these lines and paste them again. You have to switch out the action. This is the action, the thing in the quotes. You have to switch that out with the name of the action you're going to be doing when you press that button. The way you know what this is, if you go back to the editor, you can go Edit, Project Settings. You can go to Input in the engine. You see this engine? Scroll down here, Input. If you click Input, this will be closed like this. Open up Action Mappings. And you'll just have jump here. You can hit this plus to add a new action mapping. I have attack 1, attack 2, attack 3, attack 4. If you open it up, when you add it, so hit the plus sign, write the name, and then it'll ask you for an input for it. So I just honestly attached random letters because I'm going to implement controller support for this. But to get started, I figured don't worry about controller support, just get started on adding buttons that work. So I use Q, E, Z, and X as my attacks. Really weird combination, but you use whatever keys you want. All you got to do is click down. You can search for it, but sometimes the letters are a bit hard. Like Q is easy because not many words involve Q, but E is going to be tough because there's a lot of E's in these. So you can still scroll down and find it, but you can also just click on this and go to like keyboard and then look for E. Which, here it is. I totally scrolled past it, didn't even realize it. So there you go. That's all. So just set up your 4 attacks or 3 attacks, however many you have. So this name that is in this field right here, like this is attack 1. This is what has to be in the quotes in this section right here. Attack 1. And this bind action function, what it does is it takes this value in here, waits for input from that action. So like we made attack 1 Q, it waits for the user to press Q, and then when Q is pressed, it calls the function that you have on the end here, which I want start attack 1. Out, which means they won't be read. They're just kind of to keep notes for yourself or to leave code out that you don't want to use right now. You don't have to use these, but I have attack 1, attack 2, attack 3, attack 4 for released. So for when I'm not pressing the button, when I stop pressing the button, if I wanted to implement cancels or something like that, I could use this. I don't plan on using this right now, but there's a very good chance we could down the line in these tutorials, so that's why I left these here. Feel free to copy them and play around with them if you'd like. Lastly, if you scroll down to the bottom of the file, let's add our new functions. So I added start attack 1, start attack 2, start attack 3, start attack 4. I had all 4 of these functions at the bottom. So it's this code right here if you're trying to copy exactly what I've done. And all I've done, because I don't have the animations, I don't want to confuse people by saying, oh yeah, this is going to make you punch, and then nothing happens. I wanted to separate the animations like I said earlier in the video. So all we're doing right now is printing out a log. Logs in Unreal will tell you, well, logs in general, but UE log, which is what this is in Unreal, will tell you it'll give you some text, and it can give you variable values in the log so that you can read it and know kind of where you're at in the code or what you have done, what you have hit, what error went wrong, or what error occurred, what went wrong, all sorts of different stuff. So all I did was, if you copy this, UE log of the log. So if it's an error or a crash, you might want to put that as error. You can change this and put this as error. And you'll see here. I'm keeping warning because it's just yellow, and I just wanted to show you the point of these logs. And then you can type tab. So when we see those come up on our button presses, we know that, hey, if I press Q, I will be attacking. Once you're done with all that, you have to go up to build. And you can do build or rebuild. There's different ways to do it. Sometimes you'll have to do rebuild if you have other dependencies, like DLLs or things like that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. That means you probably don't have to rebuild. So just go ahead and build the solution. It'll take a few seconds here. It'll probably take upwards of 30 seconds when you get started. It might take about that long now for me because of everything I have running, but it should only take about 8 seconds for me from now on. But this is going really slow because of all the recording I'm doing in the Unreal. Okay. I don't want to waste too much of your time just looking at this. You're going to be seeing this too. If you're doing this at this point, you'll also be at this. But anyway, when this finishes, it will come up with a build finished. There it goes. It's fighting and sweat. It's usually like 8 seconds or so. It's taking its time with all this stuff running. But when you finish, you'll see that it says build successful. If it doesn't, you have a compiler error or some sort of issue. You can double click on the error itself in the error list here. You'll have a list of things here that went wrong. You can double click on one and it will take you to when it's done, you'll see build 1 succeeded, 0 failed, 0 up to date, 1 skipped, something along that line. As long as you see 1 succeeded and 0 failed, that is good. So then, once you've built that, what that does is essentially use whatever changes you made in here and sends them to Unreal, so that Unreal has those changes. Now, there will be a nice sound when you build and Unreal is opened, and a box in the bottom right will pop up that says hot reload. If that doesn't happen, you might not have gotten the changes. Sometimes that connection isn't there. Sometimes I really don't know why, but there's sometimes a hiccup where it doesn't actually do that hot reload. If that's the case, you can also hit compile here. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to waste your time. But if you hit compile here, this will build Visual Studio from Unreal. So it will automatically get... I've never seen hitting compile here not get the changes from Visual Studio. So there's always a surefire way to do that. Now we're going to test our game, and we're going to look at the log and make sure that our attacks are... Our logs for our attacks are being posted down here. That way we can know that when we press the button, we are ready to attack. So for next episode, we can tie animations and damage to those attacks, okay? So the best way to test this is, in my opinion, new editor window. You can use selected viewport. Well, you can do pretty much any of these, but new editor window is by far the best because if you do this, it gives you an accurate size ratio for your window, and you can change the size ratio you want. So you can close it. If this crashes, this will often only crash the application instead of the whole engine, which is really convenient because then you're like, oh, I know I don't want to load that again. I got to fix whatever I made in Visual Studio. So anyway, now we have it here. And you can do all the regular stuff you can do. But if you look, I hit Q. If you look down here, we are using our first attack. Q, 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 Q. Hey guys, present Shawnthebro right here. So the reason that this has been so glitchy was my computer charger started to get really hot and actually started smoking. And that was the reason that the video also took a little bit longer to put out. So that's why the audio has been kind of in and out, and the video core started to go a little bit at the end there, I believe. So I'm just going to give you an outro here because I really kind of just talked about the future for what this project was. So I'll summarize and make it a lot more coherent for you. Basically, I plan on bringing this series out for probably 20 to 30 episodes. I think that's a fair amount to cover all the content that I already have planned for this series. It could go longer if you guys keep asking for suggestions and keep wanting new things. We will be making a video game together regardless, so it's going to be pretty long. But the next 2 to 4 episodes will also probably specifically be on the fighting game tutorial, none of the others, since you guys liked it so much. So I'll try and deliver these to you within the coming weeks. They should all be 1 to 2 weeks apart. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I hope this helped you out a lot. I know this is very simple. Like I said, next week is when all the actual progress will really be made. So if you enjoyed it, guys, please subscribe so you can see more. I really appreciate it. Feel free to share this video with any of your friends, and if they're trying to make a fighting game too, or any sort of Unreal project. And we're gonna have fun together, guys. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching my video the whole way through. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you next week.